Get out! Paying the house loan doesn't make you family, my father said, his voice sharp as a blade during our Thanksgiving meal. My mother, barely audible, murmured, "You're just envious of your brother's achievements?" I stared, stunned. "Then let him handle the $8,500 for utilities, food, and credit card debts," I shot back, and that night, I cut them off completely. By morning, the police were at the door, my mother was in tears, my sister was pleading, and then I took action. It was supposed to be a calm Thanksgiving dinner. Supposed to be. Instead, my father reclined in his chair, eyeing me like I was a stranger who'd stumbled into his home. "Get out! Paying the house loan doesn't make you family," he said, his tone frigid. I gaped at him, my untouched turkey cooling on the plate. My fists tightened beneath the table. My chest ached, not from the wine, but from his words. My mother avoided my gaze. She whispered, "You're just envious of your brother's achievements." My brother, always the favorite. I glanced at Eric across the table, lounging in his designer suit, sipping wine like royalty. The golden son, the businessman, the one they believed was flawless. Yet I was the one footing their bills for years. I'd saved them when the house payments lagged. I'd covered the $8,500 for utilities, groceries, and credit cards last month alone, while Eric posted his triumphs online. I kept my voice calm. Then let him handle the $8,500 for utilities, food, and credit card debts. The room fell silent. Eric stared at his plate, suddenly engrossed in his stuffing. My father's lip twitched. My mother finally looked up, her eyes glistening, as if I were the betrayer. I rose slowly, my chair scraping the floor with purpose. "You've chosen your side," I said. "So have I." Without another word, I left, leaving them frozen in their flawless little bubble. But that was just the start. The cold November wind stung my face as I stepped outside, though it paled compared to my family's words. This wasn't new. For years, I'd carried their burdens, like a silent ox dragging their debts up a steep hill. It began small, covering Dad's hospital bills after his operation. Then the house payments fell behind. Then Mom's car broke down. Then Eric's startup needed just a little cash to stay afloat. I paid. Every single time. Eric, of course, was always on the verge of striking it rich. At every family gathering, he'd boast about investors, new deals, grand plans. My parents soaked it up like it was scripture. "Your brother's creating something extraordinary," Mom would say, refilling her glass. "You could learn from him," Dad would chime in. "Not everyone's built for greatness." They ignored that Eric's venture was bleeding cash, surviving on credit and my financial support. They refused to see it, but they always saw me, the dependable one, the cash machine, the one who owed them everything. "You're single, no kids. What do you need money for?" Mom said last month after I cleared their overdue taxes. "You're fortunate to help." Fortunate. I was fortunate to work 70-hour weeks in IT while Eric splurged on business mentors and lavish trips with his latest girlfriend. I was fortunate to skip holidays, drive a decade-old car, and drain my savings so they wouldn't lose their home. When I tried to pull back, the guilt trips followed. "We raised you, didn't we? We've given you everything. Eric just needs a bit more time. Be patient." But tonight was different. Not just the insults, but the outright dismissal. They'd finally voiced what they'd hinted at for years. I wasn't truly family. My sacrifices didn't matter. I was useful when my wallet was open, expendable when it wasn't. The calls began that night. First, Mom. "Sweetheart, don't overreact. Your father didn't mean it like that." I didn't pick up. Then Eric called twice. No messages. Spineless. By morning, 8 missed calls. By noon, 14. Then the texts started. "Eric, look, we all said things we regret. Come back. Let's talk." Mom. "Can you cover the power bill? It's due today." Dad. "Don't let one dinner destroy everything." That last one made me chuckle. Destroy everything? They'd done that themselves. By evening, Eric sent the most brazen text yet. "Hey, got a surprise credit card bill. Can you spot me? It's just short-term." Short-term. Like the house payments, the groceries, the taxes, the private school fees for Eric's kids that I never agreed to but somehow paid. Then came the final blow, the sheer nerve of what they tried next. 2 days after Thanksgiving, I checked my bank account and froze. A new credit card opened in my name. Multiple charges. Thousands. High-end hotel bookings. Fancy dinners. Gadgets. I knew who was behind it. Eric. My hands shook, not with fear, but with fury. He hadn't even bothered to cover his tracks. He'd used my personal details, my credit, my trust. That night, I sat in my dim apartment staring at my phone, my mind racing. They hadn't just used me, they'd betrayed me, robbed me, lied to me. My breathing steadied, my resolve hardened. If they wanted a battle, they'd get one. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. Instead, I made calls to my bank, to my attorney, to the credit agency. I locked my credit, disputed the charges, and filed a fraud report. The proof? Ironclad. The culprit? My own brother. By morning, my phone lit up again, as if they sensed the storm brewing. Eric, call me. It's a mix-up. Mom, don't do anything hasty. Dad, you're making this bigger than it is. Number. For once, I wasn't. The final showdown came sooner than expected. 3 days later, they showed up uninvited, hammering on my apartment door like the world was collapsing. "Open the door, son!" my father bellowed. "Please, honey, we need to talk," my mother begged, her voice breaking. Eric pounded harder. "You don't get what you're doing." Oh, I understood perfectly. I opened the door slowly, standing in the frame like a judge ready to deliver a verdict. "You've got 10 minutes, I said, my voice icy. They rushed in, Mom sobbing, Dad furious but trying to play peacemaker, Eric pale, sweating, eyes darting like a cornered rat. "Look," Eric stammered, "it's a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I echoed, laughing bitterly. "You stole my identity and ran up $27,000 in charges. That's not a misunderstanding, Eric. That's a crime." My father stepped forward, his tone sharp. "We're family. You don't call the cops on family." "Oh, now we're family?" I snapped. "Funny, 'cause last week you told me to get out. That paying the house loan doesn't make me family," my mother wailed. "We didn't mean it. We were upset." "You meant every word," I said. "You meant it when you called me envious. You meant it when you let me pay your bills for years without a single thank you. You meant it when you let Eric steal from me and thought I'd just swallow it." Eric's facade finally broke. "You've always been jealous," he spat. "That's why you're doing this. You can't stand my success." "Success?" I nearly shouted. "You mean pretending to succeed? Using my money to fund your fake lifestyle while I skipped trips, drove a beat-up car, and worked myself to death?" My voice trembled with rage. "You're not successful, Eric. You're a con artist." My father slammed his fist on the table. "Enough! You're ripping this family apart." "No," I said through clenched teeth. "You did that. You enabled him for years and drained me dry while doing it." Eric's face twisted into something ugly. "You've always hated me. Admit it. That's what this is about." "Hated you?" I laughed. "I kept you afloat. Your $4,000 a month apartment, your leased Mercedes, your designer clothes, all on my dime while you played the victim." My voice turned cold. "But tomorrow you'll face the consequences. I've filed a police report. Identity theft, bank fraud, wire fraud, the works." My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. "You can't do this. What'll happen to your brother? To us?" "That's not my burden anymore," I said, my tone like steel. "You made your choices." Eric lunged forward, but my father yanked him back. "You want to destroy your own kin?" Dad roared. "You destroyed yourselves when you decided I was only worth what I could pay," I replied. "I'm not your bank anymore, and I'm done being your scapegoat." The room shook with their yells, their tears, their desperate pleas. But I'd made my choice. This time, I was done. I opened the door. "Get out, all of you. Next time we talk, it'll be in court." The police arrived the next morning. Detective Reynolds, calm but stern, took my statement. I handed over every piece of evidence. Credit card statements, transaction screenshots, emails, even Eric's texts begging for one last loan. The case was airtight. "With this amount," Reynolds said, scanning the documents, "this won't stay a family matter. Fraud and identity theft are serious." I nodded. "I want to press full charges." And that was it. By week's end, Eric was under investigation. I watched it unfold from afar like a crash I'd once tried to prevent but now couldn't stop. The fallout was swift and brutal. The family chat blew up. Mom, "You didn't need to involve the police. We could have handled this." Dad, "You're ruining your brother's life. For what? A few bucks?" Eric, "You're a traitor. You've always hated me. Enjoy your revenge." Mom, "Think about how this looks to the neighbors, to the church." Every message dripped with guilt, manipulation, desperation. For years, that tactic worked. Not anymore. I ignored them all. But they weren't finished. 2 days later, my parents showed up again. My father didn't knock. He pounded until a neighbor told him to quiet down. My mother sobbed behind him, a scene straight out of a melodrama. "Open up!" Dad shouted. "You can't hide forever." I cracked the door. "There's nothing to discuss," I said calmly. "You're making a mistake," he growled. "You've always been ungrateful. After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done?" I laughed bitterly. "I paid your house loan for 5 years, your taxes, your groceries, your precious son's debts. You didn't do anything for me. You exploited me." My mother jumped in, voice trembling. He's your brother. You're sending him to prison." "No," I snapped. "He sent himself there when he stole my identity. And if you cared about him, you'd have taught him accountability years ago. But you didn't. You enabled him." My father's face reddened. "If you go through with this, you're dead to us." "I've been dead to you for years," I said, and slammed the door. Weeks passed. The investigation moved quickly. Eric hadn't just targeted me, he'd scammed 3 others, shady investors who came forward once the police dug deeper, grand jury indictment, multiple felony counts, federal charges. He faced real prison time. The trial hadn't started, but the family was already crumbling under their own lies. The most surprising part? Relatives started switching sides. First, my aunt, Dad's sister, called me quietly. "You did the right thing," she said. "We all knew how your parents shielded Eric. They never valued you." Then my cousin reached out, then an uncle. Each admitted they'd seen this coming but stayed silent. "He was always the favorite," my uncle said. "No one ever stopped him. Not your parents, not even your grandmother." It was surreal. For years they'd watched me struggle, and only now, with Eric exposed, did they speak up. The biggest shock was Kelly, Eric's ex-wife. She called weeks after the indictment. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Thank you," she said instantly. "For what?" I asked. "For standing up to him? I wish I'd done it sooner." She revealed she'd left Eric not just for cheating, but for financial abuse. He'd drained her accounts, forged her name on loans, and left her buried in debt she barely escaped. "He ruined everyone around him," she said, her voice shaking. "And your parents kept defending him like it was nothing." Her words confirmed what I'd long suspected. Eric wasn't just spoiled, he was a predator, preying on family, friends, anyone he could. My parents? They stood by him, even now. The last time we spoke was the day before Eric's arraignment. My father called one last time. "If you testify, you'll destroy this family," he said flatly. "No," I replied. "Eric destroyed this family. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage." Silence. Then he said the words that had haunted me my whole life. "You were always the envious one." I smiled. For the first time, those words didn't sting. "And you were always blind." I hung up for good. When Eric stood in court, shackled in a jumpsuit, I felt no joy, no pity either. I felt free. Free from years of manipulation, free from their guilt trips, free from being their ATM. The sentence was severe but fair, 7 years in federal prison plus restitution. Eric never looked at me as the judge spoke. My parents sat in the back, expressionless, as if mourning a saint. But I saw the truth in their eyes. Anger mixed with shame. That night, I returned to my apartment. Alone, but lighter than ever. As I poured a drink, my phone buzzed. A text from my aunt. "You did what none of us could. I'm proud of you." I stared at it for a long time. For the first time in years, I let myself believe it. 6 months have passed since I testified against my brother. 6 months since my parents cut me off for refusing to protect the family name. 6 months since I stopped being their financial puppet. For the first time in my adult life, I found peace. No more late-night calls demanding cash. No more guilt disguised as concern. No more watching my savings vanish into their mistakes. I woke up each morning in my modest, fully paid-off apartment. No debts, no burdens, no weight on my shoulders. I'd reclaimed my life, and it felt better than I'd ever dreamed. The world moved on. Eric sat in prison, his business empire reduced to lawsuits and unpaid debts. The news covered it briefly. Local entrepreneur charged with widespread fraud. But scandals fade fast. My parents sank deeper into denial, shunning anyone who didn't defend their fallen son. I heard from cousins that my mother still hosted dinners, speaking of Eric like a wronged hero. My father spent his days ranting about betrayal to anyone who'd listen. But I was no longer part of their story. Then one morning came an unexpected email from Kelly, Eric's ex-wife. "I know you may not want to hear from me, but I need to say this. Thank you. Not just for confronting Eric, but for surviving them. I know how they work, and I know how hard it is to break free." I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. She was right. Surviving them was exactly what this was. A lifetime of invisible shackles, finally broken. Weeks later, another surprise. A knock at my door. I opened it and froze. My aunt, my father's sister. She hadn't spoken to me since the trial. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said softly. "No. Come in," I replied, wary. We sat. She fidgeted with her ring. "I wanted you to know," she began. "Your grandmother passed last week." My heart sank. Grandma was the only one who ever treated me like a person, not a resource. She left something for you, my aunt said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. You always saw the truth. Don't feel guilty for choosing yourself. That's what I always hoped you'd do. With the note was her will. She'd left me everything. Her house, her savings, the inheritance my parents expected to claim. She wanted you to have a new beginning, my aunt whispered. She saw what they did to you. I sat there, stunned. For a moment, guilt crept in, that old familiar shadow. But then something shifted. Not guilt, closure. They'd taken my peace, my money, my pride for years. Now life was giving something back. Today, as I stand before Grandma's old house, planning to make it my own, I feel something new. Strength, not the kind that dominates others, the kind that lets you live without fear, without shame, without someone demanding more. I glance at my phone. Dozens of missed calls from my parents, now desperate to reconnect since learning about the inheritance. I don't answer. They lost that privilege long ago. I'm free. And this time, I'm not going back.